have done that. Zeke kind of threw out a spoiler there before we took a look at the leaderboard. He did mention that they're still in first place, and that they are, but still a little bit of a lead. So they got to be feeling pretty good.
Oh,
gosh,
look at the jumps of 9. I don't. That wasn't me. I don't know who that was. That wasn't me before. But up 9 places, Muzz and Rise now currently in second place. But look at this, guys. Ritual and Cold as well. They have not moved from their current placements. This top 10 just looks so crazy to me. But from this last game, Ritual and Cold, yet another game. Every single game they played, it's a 6th, a 5th, and a 6th. This is crazy. And Kelly, even in this last game, 8 eliminations. Those points from eliminations are crucial. And I feel like these guys are now currently alive and firing on all cylinders.
This is what they do so well every single time that we watch them, whether that was in Heats or the Div Cup, where they aren't able to get a victory royale. In fact, for both of those tournaments, their best placements was 3rd. But regardless of if they're getting 3rd or 10th or whatever, they're able to get all these eliminations. And we know just how much more important eliminations are with the changes to the major. It being 4 points in day number 1. These elims are so pivotal. Yes, making it to the end game, getting these solo clutches as well is so big, but the fact that they are able to get a handful of eliminations every single time is why we consistently see them at the top of our leaderboard every single tournament.
Actually, I went ahead and critiqued them kind of going into that game there because they only had 4 eliminations. I kind of called for them to pick up some more eliminations, and with them finding 8 right there, they effectively tripled the amount that they had going into that one. So yeah, big boon for them there. But I feel like if we're going to be talking about the column and the category and the stat of eliminations, we have to talk about Agers and Veno. They're actually currently tied for the team that's leading the pack with eliminations. They're tied with Higgs and Kerm, who have 19. But for Agers and Veno to be in the top 10 right now, just basically on the back foot of those 19 eliminations, just feels crazy. I mean, guys, these 2 players are triple contested at Latte Landon, and somehow, some way, they are just making it work. Like, these guys look so good. If they can kind of continue to figure things out and keep playing as they are, they might potentially qualify to globals or place even higher up the leaderboard than they currently are out of this crazy all-spawn situation that they have.
Yeah, seeing where they are in the leaderboard and considering how game number 2 looked for them, where they grabbed 4 eliminations right off the start and then having a second, third party come in to finally take them down, I thought that there was just no way they were going to be able to either stick in that situation or be able to kind of hold themselves up in the leaderboard. But sure enough, we see them do this crazy rotate all the way over into Sunken Shores at the start of game number 3, going up against threats and visuals and it coming out their way. And I was so certain for, like I was telling Vivid, I was like, there's just no way they can recover from this. They spent way too much time in Storm and fighting, and Vivid was like, nah, just wait, just wait. And sure enough, they proved themselves again.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we got to figure out this off spawn situation. Is it time to move? Is it time? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's working for now, but we definitely need more placement points. With that being said, though, game number 4 is ready for us. For now, casters, over to you.
Yeah, I'm just thinking to pick up on that thought. Maybe it's a day 2 situation for other teams, right? Veno and Agers are clearly showing us, Jacob, this drop is theirs right now.
Yeah, they've already kind of got 20 and Chip out of their hair, but that was just in that last game. Things can return back to normal, but Veno and Agers, kind of the team when it comes to the north side of the map that you really have to watch out for. And I feel like we're going to be watching it in this game as well. The battle bus is ready, so let's jump right into game 4.
Well, here we have it. We're getting into the championship rounds here. The back half of day 1 is officially at play now. And I mean, Jacob, talk about an explosive grand final so far, right? You know, it's always coming into it. You're never really knowing what you're going to expect, but NA just doesn't let us down. We have quite the tournament here, and our standings are looking so crazy. I'd be excited to crown someone new for an FNCS champion this time around.
Hey, this could be the year for first. I know last major I was talking about could be the year for the underdogs, but I still think anything can still happen. A 60-point lead has been dropped to 40, still a lead, but it goes to show that you can cut it down. Latte Landing, though, still having multiple teams over in this direction. The 2 directly there, and then you still got 20 and Chip around the outskirts.
Yeah, just to touch on that lead a little bit, you know what's crazy? Like a bad game for them was 8th place, and that closed the gap tremendously. Just shows you that anyone inside the top 10 popping monster dubs are gonna throw you way up. But Venno, Agers here, still fighting for their life right now against Chance and Matt, who are actually putting up a really good fight here. But Agers doesn't have any shield, Venno doesn't either, so everyone calls to back off. I wouldn't be surprised if everyone just disengages at this point, right? You don't have to finish these fights by any means, especially when Madden and Chance haven't been quite winning them.
It's just a tough situation because, like, how do you get out if you're unscathed? You had Void, Magma, Aoxy, Jojo on your left side, Mountain, 20 and Chip, leaving the actual POI, but still on the outskirts, holding down one side. Reed and Cooper lurking around, and then obviously 2 teams directly in Latte. We'll see how that one ends up when this one's over. As Ishu goes down, they're finally trading this one off. Dozier and Ishu were able to get the first elimination last game, but Kyan and Skittles make up for it this game.
Wild. Very rarely you tune in with 2 teams that have kind of won the drop on either side, but both teams have really pushed and gone the distance. They have 90 points, but so did Ishu and Dozier before falling there pretty much. So they are neck and neck right now for the tournament. In any case, it's a major setback for them. Cold and Ritual, just sleeper duo right now as far as the performance here. Keeping a low profile, springing out when it matters most in endgame, doing what they do overall, extremely consistently here. They have a 6th, 5th, and a 6th place. They are all but due for a win at this point.
And Cold even having the 2nd most damage in the lobby as of now, and this is just a surprising turn of events. He's typically, you know, even though Battlewood is contested, of even Veer on one side, Ritual and Cold on the other, it usually ends up in a split. It's a big POI, a lot of buildings, a lot of nooks and crannies to kind of hide behind, so it is risky. So it's also interesting to see it play out the way it is as of now. Not sure who started the fight. It doesn't look like either one is having a good time here. Materials just kind of being burned through. It almost makes you wonder. I do believe they might be underneath the bridge as well, where there's one way in and one way out on each one of their sides.
Yeah, the difference about this drop at least is that it's dead center, so they will have time to bounce back and get situated.
See what they're fighting for. They're saving the dog, getting the Baba Yaga mythic, which we know in the hands of either Cold or Ritual could definitely provide a ton of damage. Just clicks and rapid. This is the same thing that we saw last time from the Cube, from Sanctuary. They use it to lift off and to jump on QK and Mirops. They're able to end this fight rather quickly in that last game. This time it's taking a little bit more time.
Yeah, it looks like Mirops was a little more prepared here alongside QK. I'm surprised they even went for this back-to-back.
Come on.
A little bit more dynamic, right? Saving this one for a little surprise play later on in the tournament, but because they've kind of shown their hand, it's definitely making a difference. Looking at the feed though, F9, the most lurkiest of lurks. Looks like Cold and Ritual fall to the hands of F9 and Moneymaker. They just tend to set it up well, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did it again.
Which is crazy because Moneymaker and Fernayan, in terms of the drop map, they had that whole south side kind of uncontested. Maybe that's where Seek and Taki did eventually end up, which is why we're seeing Moneymaker and Fernayan. Last game, center map, they snuck onto Olive OG and Carillion. This time, the Battlewoods taking down Ritual and Cold. It seems like they're taking the old teeny strat from years past and incorporating it into their game plan here.
What's crazy about that, though, is that it becomes a major disruption for people that are inside the top 10. Look at this. Cole just gets completely ambushed here, taken down. Ritual tries to sneak his way in, but it's just too late. This is an actual solid duo right now. And that just pushes them even closer to the top of the standings, effectively jumping them into roughly 6th or 5th place. They are very much in the race here. Meanwhile, we get that update with Victor V and Queasy playing the Surge Tower here at the drop, actually pulling zone right now. And we actually don't see anyone nearby. So we could see the early ramblings of something like Game 1, right? Where they didn't get that much damage.
Yeah, This is almost like a blessing and a curse, as you're kind of alluding to. You're not taking damage, which means you're not falling below the damage threshold, but you're not progressing your position either. As Poyo, Peterbot lurk around, they found Webster out by himself, going on the chase for Encrypted. And again, this could be a part of a bigger picture for Peterbot and Poyo. For a couple of these games, honestly, more times than not, we see them struggling to actually deal with their overall Storm Surge. Not something you necessarily see every day for a team like this, but it just goes to show as each game progresses, they're doing what they can to fix their mistakes. As he tuned in Veno, trying to make a lurk onto Jojo Fishy, but Eoxy has a lurk onto him.
Oh my gosh, the lurker is about to get lurked on. Veno's thinking to himself, oh, Eoxy has no idea.
What's voting on?
But his teammate,
The teammate know what's voting
knows.
on.
This is crazy. Well, luckily, the teammate actually fires off. Aegis kind of initiates, because had they not, it would have just been trouble for Veno here. I'm more surprised they don't just 2v1 jump him at this point, realizing that Aegis was far back, but Veno can count his lucky stars here.
Oh,
Big tax.
yeah, so gotta wonder what their Surge is going to be like as the game progresses. It's a huge question mark. Surge is like currency, allows you to freely rotate around the map, stick to your game plan, because once you reach a certain level of below that damage threshold, you almost have no choice on what to do. You have to fight the first team you see more times than not. But as you jump into King and Craze, they already at least got one elimination here. Seeing them just trying to reset. Clicks and Rapid on the other hand, just continuing that fight that we saw early on against Baraps and QK.
Well, this is really interesting. This game has the most amount of teams alive as we get into the third zone, so there is going to be some surge issues coming up. Meanwhile, King and Craze, very excellent ambush onto Liam here, find him completely off guard. Craze looks to cut off Jace, but he slips away. Just like that, another set of eliminations, and further up they go. Now putting themselves in a conversation of the top 10 for King and Craze. All they were missing was not dudding out game number 2, where they were alive for 15 minutes and fell before the placement point. So really deep into the round and likely having issues with damage.
At least for now, Jace is going to be able to get out alive. Jump aboard King. Seeing how he was able to pick up that first elim, it was onto Zen. So you have to know that's paper on the other side of that wall. He doesn't get a chance to actually break in the box. He's just simply, I hope, trying to stay alive to get Zen back in the game. We're still relatively early, the third zone. So a lot of the teams on the outskirts being pushed closer and closer together, which is why you see Acorn and Bolts kind of positioned not too far away from the Battlewoods, north of their actual POI on those mountain ranges. They have a little bit of distance here, so they can cover as much ground as possible.
Got Acorn and Bolts playing the mountain once again. It's looking pretty good. You got Muzz kind of there, lurking far off in the distance. But the dust is starting to settle here. Meanwhile, Cooper and Reed fighting, squaring off against Aegis and Veno. They've moved their way up towards the Wonky Land, playing the outer coast, looking for a battle, considering that the zone's playing up this way. And that just means they were caught, right? They were likely caught trying to lurk here, trying to see what they can find over at the Wonky. I don't imagine that they wanted to take a clean 2v2 battle.
Gotta imagine they're after two things, being this deep in the zone right now. They're after the mending machine for the heals, and after damage for Surge. You saw two different instances for Veno, around 100 damage each of those instances as he was lurking around, kind of getting scraped off, not necessarily taking the same off-spawn battle as they have in games prior. So that's got to be a real struggle for them. And in the back of their minds as well, Veno, probably one of the smartest players in the game that we have right now, probably calculating down to the exact number of what they need to come back from. And that's why I think they're just kind of floating around here, grabbing scraps. They know their actual latte had probably looted down to nothing, so they need something.
Now we get to jump in with Higgs and Curve. Saw the stat numbers showing Curve's capabilities so far. Very much a dangerous, dangerous player here when it comes down to it. Really representing right now the new leader of the controller scene, who's definitely slept on up until he gets that win and I think now he's just continuing to prove himself that it wasn't by luck, it wasn't by chance. It surely was in the hands of his own skill. What do we have here, though? Mirops and QK, they just can't catch a break. Another duo sitting on them now.
Yeah, probably having to run through all the material, gold, resources, surviving the clicks and rapid push. And now they run into Curly and Tyler here on the other side, and they're 300 or so below for QK and Mirops. Tyler and Curly, they're actually pretty well off. They just don't need this fight. 400 below for Mirops and QK. They essentially need both of these eliminations without taking much, if not any damage at all.
See the shockwave play here from Mirops. He's going in for it. Venom's fight is a surge battle, by the way. 80 below. This is really tough. Actually, yeah, look, he's even used all of his material as well. Jacob, things are starting to turn for the worst here.
And usually, you know, you can have a couple mistakes, you can have a couple bad games, but even with those 4 eliminations, we saw them kind of get wiped off of spawn relatively soon. And you can kind of see the two sides of this coin. QK and Mirops, 400 damage below, and you can see them disengaging here. I think one of them may need to play hero here and try to go for some damage, but 500, they fall even further. On the other side, Veno and Agers barely on that line. 80 below the damage threshold for the most part. They're not getting desperate, just trying to push into boxes and put themselves into a bad spot. They're just consistently trying to put down pressure against 20 and Chimp.
Yeah, I like this little side angle here, kind of breaking his way out of the building, but now he's getting shot from other teams in the distance. So this is definitely a bit of a scrappy fight, and unless they can get a big tag here and now to buy him some time, it's only going to get harder from here. Nice little knock onto 20. They have to quickly get the siphon. There it is. And oh my gosh, plenty of heals come spilling out as well. So just like that, their tournament goes from what was almost bad to now not so shabby.
Yeah, just put them in a spot here where they're not in the best position. I know you said not too shabby, and I gotta agree with that, but it's just they know their fighting is not over just yet. They got enough to keep them in the game, but now they need another elimination to put them into prime form. Clicks and Rapid, on the other hand, you see them 900 above the damage threshold, still finding elimination onto X-Pawn. Oliver OG, I feel like he's overstaying his welcome here against Clicks and Rapid, especially with how little HP he actually has.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what can you do? So they get full on fired away on. Meanwhile, Rise and Muzz, we get to get a nice little update with them. A couple hundred above the damage threshold. They've managed to really maintain a low-key presence here. You can see, just judging by how much heals and material count they have had a nice ride through to the mid-game here so far. Meanwhile, Boyo seems like they're still getting active themselves with a nice little elimination starting to fall through. But this game is heating up now for Veno, for Agers. We already knew that they had just a couple of hundred builds to work with. Not much has changed since then. However, a fight here and now. Aiden doesn't close the wall, and Veno punishes him with a monster shot now. There goes the finish. There goes the refresh he was looking for. And just like that, Jacob, you might have talked it into existence. They are back.
Yeah, I'm just glad to know I'm not a curse. Usually there's that caster curse going around, and I'm glad for today. For this moment, it's not me. Hopefully, Venom and Agers complete the game, and it can be true, but there it is, just one foot in front of the other. It's not all about these massive victories, taking on first place, winning games. Sometimes enough of those small battles being won could put you in a big position. Venom and Agers fought their way from below the damage threshold. Now Queasy and Victor V need to do the same thing. 143 points. You can kind of see them there on the leaderboard, perfectly timed, top 5 positions so far. They're one of the teams to qualify for globals if this were to end now.
Really tough spot to be in, and then you have Higgs and Curve on your heels here. This can go either which way. Higgs, Curve, they don't have much pressure the way Victor and Queasy do. They also don't have the mats, but it's Victor V who's putting attacks in from behind. Meanwhile, he lands right next to, of course, his opponent there. But Queasy, look at this, pull the zone. They go straight for high ground, and now they're positioned up. Still eyeing the team below them, but they still have, of course, the danger of Higgs and Curves rotate here. Material count, check. Heals, decent. Victor does have a chug splash, but Victor is the only one holding it right now. Queasy will likely need to use it here.
Yeah, even though they're positioned high up right now, it's very, very important for them to get an elimination sooner rather than later. So that way, if it does max pull, they have the shockwaves, they have the builds, they can continue to try and hold it. Otherwise, that'll be the moment they have to give it up. You see Aviv and Veer in the distance, barely surviving. Higgs and Curve here, but also Noxy and Dash. 152 points, over 200 above the damage threshold. That's not necessarily the worry for this team. It's only the zone, a max pull for them and everybody else on this edge.
Coming into this game, Noxy and Dash were in 4th place after getting a 2nd and 3rd back-to-back, and it just shows you can make a mistake in one round and still be in the race right now. That's how close the competition has been so far. But right now, the biggest targets are on the backs of Higgs and Curve, who of course have a 40-point cushion here. They're the only team that hasn't made a mistake in today's tournament so far. Take a look at the bigger picture though. Peterbot, Boyo pulled a zone. They're the first to solidify their way to the high ground. But I'm hearing that Surge kind of warn the lobby here and now. So I'm curious who is below. 10 players, Jacob, still have to fall here before things kind of simmer down.
Yeah, for Peterbot and Pollo, damage is the last thing in their mind. They're just trying to whittle everybody down into scraps. Higgs is down, Curve's still alive. We've seen him last game with a solo clutch performance to keep them with that 40-point lead and placement points monster. We're only in top 24. They had barely started to set in. So everybody in the lobby, if anybody at home wants an entertaining tournament, you gotta hope Curve goes down here. But I know mom and pops are probably screaming right loud in the house, Curve, you can do it. You can do it again, just like you did last game.
Yeah, listen, dude, Curve is definitely showing up and showing out right now for the entire community, making all the controller players proud. Meanwhile, Agers, Veno at 5 eliminations, coming and fighting their way out of what was almost an early grave. They were getting deep into the, of course, negative territory, but back, they have fought their way. Meanwhile, Shadow Virgo trying to fight for high ground. That's a desperate play, showing us that they need a long way to fight their way into, of course, a winning position. Meanwhile, Victor and Queasy go from nothing to a fresh elimination. That's a nice way to earn some points here.
Yeah, desperately needed as well, because you saw them looking at high ground. They just had nothing to hold on to it. That could be the key for their success and longevity in this game. Curve still surviving. Veno and Agers just going through every single emotion throughout the course of this game. Happiness, sadness. They just need to go ahead and top it off with a victory royale, put the cherry on top, but they're just waiting for the zone to catch up, getting the most out of the shockwave effect. They don't want to blast themselves from point A to point B. They just simply want the effect to try to run down anybody in their path. That one isn't going to find any success, but it just goes to show what Veno and Agers have in their mind.
Little do they know that other player only had 10 HP. It could have gone either way, but at the end, they still have to fight their way through. Peterbot, Boyo still have ultimate high ground over the lobby. What's the material count looking like? Because we know that they're firing away with those pistols here. Just a couple to work with. Definitely plenty to go ahead and go the distance. They're so high up, though, that no one can shockwave towards them, right? That's, I believe, what matters. But they recognize it's costing them a little bit too much. They have to go down. Clicks, rapid. 4 eliminations now. Finding one on the rotate here. This is going to set them up for a top 15 now.
Just need to continue to stay consistent. 130 points. Like you said, 4 eliminations, but the bare minimum when it comes to the actual heals, they cannot overstay their welcome in the zone, but Peterbot and Pollo have not looked back yet. Agers and Veno are hunting. You gotta wonder what's the Chug Jug situation like, but there's no actual shockwave. There's no chance for them to go for high ground, or at least not point in time.
I feel like
Clicks
broken
gets another elimination onto Craze, getting that extra little bit of materials for Rapid to keep themselves looking strong.
Look at this, Veno already eyed up high. He saw that they were building on singular cones there, and now they're gonna heal up and likely target high ground. Peterbot and Boyo have something coming for them. Meanwhile, Clicks, solo clutching here by himself, already earning his way to the top 10. Veno and Agers now fully healthy. Looking for a refresh if the potential is there, but the builds are open. It was Clicks who puts a monster shot in, giving them a little something to think about.
Yeah, but
Oh.
they're still chasing him down. 180 on the Cynics. Perfectly timed, but it's not the perfect
still-
scenario. Or at
still
least not
good
for
then.
him. As Moneymaker and Fortnite drop him into the palm of their hands, and they grab that elimination. I'm looking at the mini-map right now. Poyo has Shockwave outside of the zone. Peterbot is on high ground by himself. He's trying to make his way back, but what damage has it done for him? Moneymaker has fallen. Fortnite now stuck with his back up against the wall. No builds by himself.
But he took down Peterbot. That's one of the equation already out. Bolts is going to fall. Azers is going to fall as well. I think we're looking at all solos remaining here, Jacob. This is a tough spot to be in. Everyone's in shambles, but it's all going to come down to who targets who. Boyo looking to low ground, gets targeted from someone up top. It's Kai Ixon out of nowhere with his teammate. He actually has Skittles. They're the only duo standing.
Yep, 2v1v1 situation. More than enough Chug Jug to get Skittles up to perfect shield and HP, but Fnayan's fighting his way on up into Skittles, able to get the down. Rise is gonna fall, but at least brings it down to a 1v1. It was a long shot, but Fnayan had a chance. Kyan and Skittles are gonna end that game off with a victory royale by taking down top team after top team.
And they got 10 eliminations along the way too. So talk about a big game to put them inside a potential top 5 there, Zeke.
Oh man, that was a brutal zone and a chaotic game. And for Skittles and Kyan, they decide, look, you know, we just got to do everything we can. Just stay alive. We stay together. Everything will be okay. And then it comes down to solos, Kelly. And at that point, your duo is looking poised to walk away with a victory royale 10 elimination game. And in game number 4, obviously we maybe wish that had happened a little sooner, right? But still, to happen at all, this is big, right? This is momentum.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch these highlights of Skittles and Kyan because there was just so much going on with so many big names that we really weren't able to watch too much of what was going on. But when you have a lot of our leaderboard, top 10 leaderboard kind of going down to solos and everything, and especially with Agers and Veno doing so well, and then Peterbot and Poyo holding high, obviously you can only have so many cameras and so many observers. But regardless, Skittles and Kyan finally proving themselves against the lobby right now. And to see them, yeah, Zone 11 is when they had height, but to see how they got here would have been great.
What a giant emphasis on how early this game actually ended. I don't even think we made it into the 12th zone here. So this one ended very, very quickly, which is why we didn't see a lot of that action, right? Even we kind of missed it. Peterbot and Player were kind of sitting up on the high ground. It looked like they were going to be steadfast for the win here, or at least be able to be competitive in that regard. But Blink, and you might have missed it, Skittles and Kyan just kind of end up on the higher ground. And yeah, sure enough, we kind of end game number 4 pretty early. And that is going to be sending Skittles up the leaderboard without a doubt, because 10 eliminations and a win there, 100+ point win. So excited to kind of see where that lands him on the leaderboard.
Yeah, they started in 16th place going into that game with only 84 points. So we'll have to see how things go for them after that. But for now, a break. When we return, 2 games left to go before we wrap up day 1 of the Major 2 final. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a moment.